Okay, children, so moving on to the next type of sentence, which is complex sentence. Okay, now complex sentence has one main clause, okay, and it can also have one or more subordinate clauses, okay. Now, when I say subordinate clauses, these are the clauses, like I told you earlier, which do not make sense in themselves, and they are dependent on some other part of the sentence to make complete sense. For example, if I write here, I go to the mall which is near my house when I go back home. Now, if you see here, children, one, I go to the mall, this is making sense in itself. So, this is the main clause. Okay. Which is near my house. Now, here, this clause is describing about the mall. So, it's an adjective clause. Okay. And here, this is a subordinate clause. Okay. So, we have one subordinate clause. Then when I go back home, now it's telling me the time. So it's an adverbial clause here. When I go back home. When do I go? When do I go to the mall? When I go back home. So again, if I look at these two parts of the sentence, which is near my house, is it making sense? You will say, what is near your house? So it is not clear. It's not making sense. So this part of the sentence is dependent on the main clause. Hence, we say that this is a subordinate clause. Similarly, when I go back home, so this again is an incomplete sentence. It's a clause which is not making complete sense. So again, this is a subordinate clause. So in this sentence, we have two subordinate clauses and one main clause. Now these two subordinate clauses are joined in the main to the main sentence by subordinating conjunctions like which, when, once, while. All these are subordinating conjunctions. So another characteristic of complex sentences is that they are joined, the subordinate clauses are joined by subordinate conjunctions. Okay. So if I say, as a matter of rule, if I say the complex sentences are those sentences which have got one main verb, that is of the main clause, which we say it is a finite verb, and the other two verbs is near my house, we count it as half because it's a subordinate clause. So I say 1 plus half plus half. So 1.5 verb, or maybe it can be more halves also, because you can have one or more subordinate clauses. So the formula for verbs here for the complex sentences is one main verb, which is of the main clause, and half verbs of the subordinate clauses. Okay. So this again is, I think, sufficient for you to understand the difference between complex sentence and a compound sentence. In a compound sentence, there were two main clauses which were joined by subordinating conjunctions. Whereas in the complex sentence, there's one main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. But main clause will be one only. Okay. Now we move on to the complex compound sentences, which is a mixture of both compound and complex. I'll be discussing it in my next video.